We are here because of an elaborate scheme. These are the opening remarks from Prosecutor Mapewole as the prosecution delivered their closing remarks in the bail application for Tiffany. Now, Tiffany is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law, and these are all just allegations against her. So the prosecutor started out by saying that this was an elaborate scheme that was concocted by the defendant, and it was so elaborate that she made someone else a suspect. We know that the transport driver's house was searched and that she pointed the fingers, saying that the transport driver was the last person who was seen with Jayden and that he had something to do with Jayden's disappearance. The prosecutor also talked a lot about human behavior and basically Tiffany's behavior, how she returned to the scene of the crime in the early morning hours, how she was acting on the day that Jayden disappeared, which we'll get into later. And the prosecutor admitted that this is a circumstantial case. So circumstantial cases aren't easy to prove, right? And the prosecutor admitted this, but they broke it down into three basic bits of evidence that link, right? That prove that this circumstantial case is indeed very strong. Mainly the physical evidence. We know the pillow, the bloody pillow, as well as the school bag. Now, the school bag is so important because the school bag went to school with Jayden that day. We know because in his books, he completed the day's homework. The prosecutor then also linked this to human behavior, especially Tiffany's behavior, right? Her returning in the early morning hours by herself to shower when, according to the night shift guard, she leaves in the same clothes, as well as indirect witnesses, the night shift guard, the day shift guard, their observations and what they had written in the OB book. Now, the prosecutor refuted Mr. Naidu's claim that Jayden could have gone somewhere else besides home that day. We know that they were only living there for 2.5 months, and there is no evidence to suggest that Jayden would go to anyone else's house but his own house, Unit 13, on returning from school. The prosecutor then pointed out Tiffany's behavior on the day that Jayden disappeared. So the prosecutor alleges that by 4 o'clock, Tiffany should have been very worried, but for 5 o'clock, she, by her own admission, went to the shops to perhaps buy some supplies, it was said. We don't know if they have proof of this. Maybe they do. But this is the first time supplies is being mentioned to my knowledge. And then also that how Tiffany returned in the early morning hours, right? According to the night shift guard, she returned at 4 a.m. And the night shift guard wanted help searching cars, and she said she's going to help. But then at 5:30, when she left in a hurry, and one of my subscribers actually pointed this out on a live where it was said that perhaps she was fleeing the scene of the crime quickly, because we know at 5:30, or 5:47 per her own account, she came rushing past the night shift guard, and the night shift guard said, "Hey, aren't we going to go look in the cars?" And she said, "No, my bolt is waiting. I got to get to the police station." And we know from the night shift guard that she just simply disappeared into the darkness, and there were no headlights waiting. And the night shift guard thought that this was odd. I mean, a single woman in South Africa walking down the street in darkness in perhaps an unsafe area, it is suspicious. And that all goes to the human behavior aspect that the prosecutor wanted us to look at and consider in this case. We also learned Jayden's height, that he's 1.57 meters. That's close to my own height. I'm 1.63 meters. And he was only 11 years old, so he was probably going to grow and much taller. And he was quite a robust boy. And the reason for this is because the prosecutor asserts that Tiffany could only have dragged him that 8 meters away from the flat because that's all she could manage, based on her stature, based on her size, based on perhaps her effort. And then we went on to the police investigation, where it was likened to that of a train on train tracks, and that the police did not have blinkers on for Tiffany at all, but simply that the investigation took them to Tiffany. And that is why they waited 2 months before they made an arrest. The prosecutor then went on to say that Tiffany was blindsided, that the police had evidence that she had returned in the early morning hours of the morning. We know from her own affidavit, which was taken by Mr. Diku on the 14th of May, the day Jayden was discovered, that she admitted to returning in the early morning hours, but the prosecutor alleges that she simply forgot that she had admitted this information to police. We also know that Mr. Diku said something about cell phone records and that her signal bounced from Florida to Vleerhof in the early morning hours. And the prosecutor said, you know what, Tiffany left this out of her affidavit, not because of the time of death story, but because she was blindsided by this, because she forgot that she had told the police on the 14th that she had returned in the early morning hours. And she knew how sus that looked, right, to us as the public who are observing this case. We then went on to some of the more technical aspects of the bail application. The prosecutor attacked the father's address, saying that it is a verbal agreement and there is no lease, as well as that if Tiffany would have to relocate to KZN, it would be on the onus of the KZN police to keep tabs on her, for her to go report to their police station. And there was a brief mention of her working. Apparently, she can continue working from where she is. I'm not too sure if that's true. Let me know if you can still work from jail. I'd have no idea. I know people get degrees and stuff from jail all the time, but if she would be able to actually hold her job in jail, I'm not too sure. And another thing that the prosecutor touched on was Tiffany's in danger from public, right? And we know from people who have been commenting, people who have been coming on the lives, that Tiffany is not safe. She is not safe if she comes out on bail. I mean, it's just a fact, right? It's just a fact, Mr. Naidu. She has angered South Africans, and that is something that the prosecutor mentioned. They mentioned that, you know what, the public outcry is a reflection of societal anger. And the prosecutor mentioned that Tiffany was actually drove this societal sympathy. She was riding a horse, and she was happy when she was riding that horse, when the public was on her side and sympathizing with her. But when the horse feels pain, it bucks. This is the prosecutor's words. And the rider is unceremoniously dismounted. And this is what has happened to Tiffany, right? And that if she would be released, she would disturb the public order. I have to agree. Tiffany, you're very recognizable in South Africa. And I've been trying to give you a fair shake, but there's a lot of very angry people out there who are very angry because, you know, of this societal outcry that has happened, right? And then on closing, the prosecutor just mentioned that they do have a strong prima facie case, and that, that Tiffany should stay behind bars because of the public outcry, because of the circumstances, and because of all the evidence. Now, I would rate the prosecutor's closing, I'd say 8.5 out of 10.